Premier League referees are letting Newcastle United get absolutely battered on the pitch, and Eddie Howe has finally broken his silence on this scandal. But there's so much more explosive stuff happening that you need to know right now. Alright everyone, how's it going? I'm Rodrigo, and you're on Newcastle Mania, the channel made by a supporter for supporters who are absolutely mad about Newcastle United. Look, you blinked and Newcastle are at the center of the biggest controversies in English football. We've got a player returning from injury in a race against time, we've got worrying absences for crucial matches, and there's an injustice happening in broad daylight that's got the Magpies faithful absolutely fuming. And the third story, mate, this one's going to make your blood boil. But before we dive into all these stories, just a quick word. If you love Newcastle and want to keep up with everything happening at our club, subscribe to the channel right now. It costs nothing, helps massively, and makes all the difference to the growth of our black and white community. Hit that red button down below and turn on the notifications. Right then, let's get into the news. News 1, Tino Livramento and the return date. Starting with the first bombshell of the day, Tino Livramento finally has a target date to return to the pitch, and there's good news and bad news in this whole story. Let me tell you what's happening. Back in September, in that match against Arsenal that Newcastle lost 2-1, Livramento fell awkwardly and badly injured his knee. It was one of those injuries where you look at it and you just know the lad's going to be out for a while. You know? And he really was. Up to now, Livramento has already missed 10 matches because of this knee ligament injury. 10 matches, mate. That's loads. And Newcastle really felt his absence, because Eddie Howe had to improvise with Dan Bone at left back, and on top of that Lewis Hall also got injured with a hamstring problem. It was a complete nightmare in defense. But now comes the good part of the story. Eddie Howe gave a press conference today and finally revealed when Livramento should be back. And look at what he said, I'd say he is still on track. It will be after the 2-week international break. I don't think we can bring that forward 2 weeks. You are looking at the Man City game for him as a penciled-in date. Hopefully, he can be available for that. So write this down, the match against Manchester City is when we should see Livramento back. That's brilliant news because Newcastle are going to need him to face Pep Guardiola's side. And there's more. Howe said the recovery is going really well, he is doing well, really good, and there are no adverse reactions to his injuries. Now comes the bad bit. This means Livramento is going to miss England's 2 remaining World Cup qualifier matches against Albania away and Serbia at home next month. For the England national team it's rubbish, but for us Newcastle supporters, it might even be a blessing in disguise. Because at least he won't risk getting injured again playing for the national team, right? And look how good this is. Howe also confirmed that Lewis Hall should be back for Sunday's match against West Ham. That's brilliant because it means the left-back position will finally have options again. And there's also Yoane Wissa who's getting close to a possible return to the pitch, although Howe was less committed about whether he'd be ready for the weekend. The manager summed it all up like this: positive signs for Tino, Lewis Hall, and Yoane Wissa. They are all on track for their respective return dates. But look, with this injury situation and an absolutely brutal fixture list ahead, Eddie Howe is going to have to choose his team very carefully for Wednesday's match against Tottenham in the League Cup. It's that crucial last 16 match where Newcastle are defending the trophy they won last year. And Howe was really honest about this. It is important for this game to make the right decision. We want to progress. The competition means a lot to us. We are current holders. We don't want to give that up easily. However, I have a squad. I need to try and get the balance right. There are players who need the football. Look how classy that is. He's acknowledging he needs to give opportunities to other players, but he also doesn't want to make it easy for Tottenham. It's that delicate balance every manager needs to find. And Howe spoke really fondly about the League Cup. We've had a lot of great experiences in this competition. The first final, the emotions after the game, felt we could have done more on the pitch. The Chelsea defeat is still very painful. We had a chance to win the competition that year, but we put it right. We had a lot of tough opponents. We didn't get to the final by luck. That experience, winning the cup, has helped us grow as a team. This shows how much this competition means to Newcastle. It's not just another trophy. It's the trophy that ended 70 years of drought. It's the trophy that started this glorious new era for the club. News 2. Injury doubts against Tottenham. Now let's move on to the second story, and this one brings worries for Wednesday's crucial match against Tottenham. As I just mentioned, Newcastle are going to defend the League Cup title against Spurs, but Eddie Howe is going to have to do it without some important players. And there's even a last-minute doubt that's emerged. First, let's go through the confirmed absences. Lewis Hall, Tino Livramento and Yoane Wissa are all out of the match. Of the three, Hall is closest to returning, but the Tottenham match comes too soon for him. Eddie Howe was asked about Hall and responded, he is the closest. No, this game will come too quickly for him, so we'll see how he is for West Ham. So that's that, Hall's out. Livramento we already knew only comes back for the City match. And Wissa still isn't ready either. But now comes the worrying bit. Sven Botman has become a doubt for the match. And for quite a frightening reason. Remember that match against Fulham on Saturday that Newcastle won with a comeback? Well, Botman took a really nasty cut to his head during the match. It was one of those moments where you close your eyes because it's too tense to watch. Eddie Howe talked about this today and look at his description. Yes, so, as I said, after the game, no concussion. It was a cut, quite a nasty-looking cut for Sven. I think he had it stapled together so. He didn't train yesterday, so we'll see how he is today. Mate, stapled his head. Can you imagine? The man had to have staples put in his head to close the cut. And now he didn't train on Monday and is a doubt for Wednesday. This is really worrying because Botman has been fundamental in Newcastle's defense. He's come back from a serious knee injury and was playing really well. Losing him for such an important match would be a massive blow. And look at the ridiculous fixture list Newcastle have got ahead. This is the 4th match in 12 days. 4 matches in less than 2 weeks, mate. And there's still West Ham, Athletic Bilbao and Brentford ahead before the next international break in November. That's why Eddie Howe is thinking about making changes to the starting 11. He doesn't want to, but he needs to. The players are knackered, some are injured, and the fixture list gives no respite. Howe explained this really well. Yes, I think it's an important decision that I've got coming up for this game because, of course, we want to progress. Competition means a lot to us, current holders, etc., so we don't want to give that up easily. But I have to trust the squad as well, and we've got some very good players that need football and need an opportunity to show their talents and what they can bring the squad. So, I think there will be an element of that, but, as I said, I've got to try and get the balance right. And he continued talking about how he loves these different competitions. I love the different focuses that those competitions bring, the different challenges. I really love this competition, as I said earlier, so I think it's a good thing. We love preparing football matches and love the experience of managing, so from my perspective, it's fine. Look how interesting what he says about the players' rhythm. From the players' perspective, I think they feel the same way. I think they've got in a good groove and rhythm of knowing that this season is just going to be about playing, then resting and then preparing again for the next game. Very limited training. This shows the brutal reality of modern football. The lads barely have time to train because it's match after match. It's play, rest, play again. It's mental. But Howe stays optimistic. But, yes, so the different focuses, I think, is a good thing and we want to stay in as many competitions as we can. And that's that. Newcastle are going to have to find a way to beat Tottenham even with all these absences. They'll need the players who come in to be in the best possible form. And most importantly, they'll need Botman to be alright from that knock to the head. And News 3, the Nick Woltemade shirt-pulling scandal. And now we've arrived at the main story, the one I promised you at the start of the video. And mate, this one will make any Newcastle supporter explode with rage. Nick Woltemade is being treated like a punchbag by Premier League defenders, and the referees are simply pretending they are not seeing anything. It's an absolute scandal that's happening in broad daylight. Let me tell you what happened in Saturday's match against Fulham. Woltemade, who's an impressive 6 feet 6 inches tall, was grabbed, had his shirt pulled, was dragged about and manhandled the entire match by Fulham's defenders. And you know what referee Peter Banks did? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Shocking images emerged after the match showing just how much Woltemade was assaulted on the pitch. Issa Diop and Calvin Bassey literally pulled his shirt the whole time, and no punishment was handed out. And look at the irony of it all, the PGMOL, which is the body responsible for Premier League referees, had promised to crack down on this shirt pulling. They'd given clear guidance to referees to look for extreme actions, like dragging a player to the ground in a non-footballing way. But you know what's happening. The referees are thinking that because Woltemade is big and strong, he should be able to handle rougher treatment from defenders. It's like they're saying, he's a big lad, so it's alright for the blokes to grab him. This is completely absurd. And it's not the first time. This had already happened earlier in the season when Woltemade was denied a stonewall penalty against Bournemouth in the 0-0 draw on the South Coast. But it's become a recurring theme and none of the top-flight referees have decided to take a stand against it. And there's more. It wasn't just Woltemade who suffered. Harvey Barnes was also hauled back by his shirt in the second half, which only increased the crowd's anger at St. James Park. There were supporters absolutely exploding with rage at the level of inconsistency in the refereeing. And finally, Eddie Howe has broken his silence on this scandal. He was asked about the shocking images and responded today at the press conference. Look at what Howe said. There were one or two, looking at the weekend, that I think were fouls that weren't given. Yes, I think that's fair to say, and I think Nick felt the same way. Mate, the manager is confirming it. Is saying openly that there were clear fouls that weren't given. This is huge because usually managers avoid criticizing the refereeing so they don't get punished. But Howe continued and gave an interesting message to Woltemade, but I think Nick is going to have to come up with all sorts of different challenges from defenders however they see best to defend against him. Some might go aggressive, some might go a little bit more withdrawn, and he needs to find a solution to figure out how best to play against that, and we'll help him with that. And finished with, I think is going to face a lot of different challenges this season because it's all new to him, but I think that will be a learning experience, the Fulham game, for him. So look at the situation. Howe is acknowledging the fouls weren't given, but is also saying Woltemade needs to learn to deal with it. It's like, yes, it's unfair, but it's the reality, so we're going to have to adapt. But should it be like this? Should a player have to accept being manhandled just because he's big and strong? This doesn't make any sense. The problem is it's creating a dangerous precedent. If defenders realize they can grab Woltemade without punishment, they are going to keep doing it. And even worse, other tall and strong players throughout the league are going to start receiving the same treatment. The crowd's complaints at the end of the first half in that match against Fulham were completely justified. There was a clear flaw in the rulebook unfolding right in front of everyone, and the referee simply ignored it. And look, this isn't just about Woltemade. This is about the integrity of the competition. If the rules aren't applied equally to all players, then what have we got? Chaos, inconsistency, injustice. Newcastle need to keep pressing on this. The press need to keep talking about it. And most importantly, the PGMOL need to instruct their referees to protect all players, regardless of their size. Because at the end of the day, football is football. If pulling a shirt is a foul for 5 feet 7 inches player, then it's also a foul for 6 feet 6 inches player. There can't be double standards. And whilst this doesn't change, Woltemade and Newcastle are going to have to find ways to overcome this injustice. Maybe he needs to be cleverer, maybe he needs to go down more easily to force the referee to make a decision. It shouldn't be like this, but unfortunately it seems to be the only option. So then, what did you think of these 3 stories about Newcastle United? Tino Livramento with a date set to return, the worrying absences for the Tottenham match, and this ridiculous scandal of the shirt pulling on Woltemade that the referees are ignoring. This is the type of content that shows the real challenges Newcastle are facing this season. It's not just about playing well and scoring goals. It's about dealing with injuries, managing a brutal fixture list, and fighting against inconsistent refereeing. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave your like down below. It helps the channel massively to grow and reach more Newcastle supporters around the world. If you're not already subscribed, hit that red button now and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any hot off the press news about our club. And tell me in the comments, are you buzzing about Livramento's return? Are you worried about the absences against Tottenham? And most importantly, what do you think of this whole farce with the shirt pulling on Woltemade? Are the referees being unfair, or does the player need to learn to deal with it? Leave your opinion down below because I read every single comment. Share this video with that mate of yours who's also a Magpie and needs to know everything that's going on. Especially this bit about the refereeing scandal. Everyone needs to know about this. Cheers for sticking with me until the end. I'm Rodrigo, this has been Newcastle Mania, and I'll see you in the next video with more news about our beloved Newcastle United. Howe the lads. See you next time.